The third straight night we are going through and breaking down some Dynasty teams. I don't know how many nights in a row we'll be doing this. All I know is we are going to be doing this over and over and over again through the course of the entire offseason. I have a lot of fun doing it, and we are going to be doing some as personalized podcasts, but honestly, makes a lot of sense just to get as many of these as I can on YouTube because we've had a lot of positive feedback with this. But as I set up this live stream, throw a thumbnail on here, etc. Make sure you go down there, drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And if you want to get your team broken down on one of these podcasts, if you want to get my Dynasty rankings, if you want to get the Dynasty rankings of all your favorite creators, they can all be found on flockfantasy.com. Sign up with promo code FLOCK with the link in the description, the link in the live chat comment section, and you'll get 30% off any subscription. And at the same time, you'll get your podcast either sent to you directly or put on YouTube breaking down your Dynasty team. Now, I think that should be about it. Let's go through. Let's pull up our first team here. Now, let's actually not look at that quite so fast. Instead, let's go through and let's go for Al Johnson's team here real quick. It's going to be a 12-team Superflex Dynasty, scoring settings attached. Feel free to use in a video, Mason. Just let me know. No, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Al Johnson's been a long-time member of the flock here. Diving into these settings, you're going to be looking at a very standard league. You're getting a 1/4 point per rushing first down. Don't really need to talk about that too much. I mean, if we're going to be looking at receiving as well, you're getting a 1/4 point per receiving first down. So really nothing to discuss in terms of how we are going to be looking at running back, how we are going to be looking at wide receiver. Really, the only thing that we should be taking into account will be the tight end premium format. So you're going to see that every position gets 0.5 point per reception, except the tight end position. The tight end position is going to get 1.5. They're going to get an entirely extra point here. So I think that actually does make a pretty big difference. I think that we should go through. I think that we should try to grab a great tight end if we can. But of course, it is going to be easier said than done because everybody else in the league understands that this is the dynamic with scoring as well. But let's go through and let's pull up the starting lineup. We are going to have, in my mind, a very solid quarterback room. I don't want to sit here and act like this is going to be the best quarterback room in the entire league. I will say I think Deshaun Watson does have an incredibly high ceiling. I mean, if we're going to ignore this past year where you only had 6 games played from Deshaun Watson, we saw the same ceiling/floor from only one other quarterback in the NFL from 2017 to 2021. That quarterback was Patrick Mahomes. Like, don't get it twisted. Deshaun Watson is truly an elite level option in fantasy. Elite. Now, going over to Jared Goff, this is a quarterback that I understand a lot of people are rooting for. I understand why. I mean, everybody and their mom wants the Detroit Lions to have a phenomenal season this upcoming year, and I can't blame them at all. The Detroit Lions have been very bad for very long now. At the same time, we got a glimpse into that locker room with Hard Knocks this past season, and this is a team that scores a lot of points. So I know everybody loves the Detroit Lions, and yes, Jared Goff was pretty good this past year, but at the same time, I will say it's Jared Goff. I don't necessarily see the long-term job security here. At the same time, he has 0 rushing upside. You'd be happy to get 100 rushing yards out the man through an entire season. So let's not overreact here with Goff as a quarterback 2. I would prefer him as a quarterback 3. If we're going to go down to the bench, we'll see we don't have any other option at QB. But going over to our rookie picks, we're going to be operating with the 102. So if we have the 102, we're sitting pretty at quarterback. We don't need to discuss this too much because we'll be grabbing a rookie here. Now, going over to running back, we're going to see that this team is shaping up to contend this season. We have Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor as our first 2 RBs. So if you're looking at redraft leagues right now on Underdog, as of today, Christian McCaffrey is going as the running back 1 off the board in 2023 drafts. You have Jonathan Taylor definitely as a top 5 running back as well. And then Travis Etienne is that mid to low end running back 1 in redraft. So, I mean, you have a ton of production at the running back position for this upcoming season. Now, going down to the bench, we're looking at Kenneth Gainwell. In my mind, a very solid depth running back. I understand you have Rashad Penny coming in, but Rashad Penny really just had the worst contract you're ever going to find from a free agent running back. He has pretty much no guaranteed money on that whatsoever. I don't think we have to be worried about that. So at RB, we could be fine here with Kenneth Gainwell as our running back 4. But if we get to the rookie draft and we have someone falling to us in the 3rd round, I think that this can be a position we decide to add a little bit of depth to. But obviously at the very top, we're perfectly fine. And I'm really sorry. I actually just noticed at quarterback, we have Trey Lance. So we don't even need to take a quarterback here. If we have Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, and Lance, we're great at quarterback as well. Going over to wide receiver, we're going to have Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, DJ Chark. Down there on the bench, we're looking at Khalif Raymond, Marquez Callaway, KJ Osborne, and then really nobody else. I mean, maybe you throw in Nico Collins, Rondell Moore. We have nobody on the bench at wide receiver. So honestly, we are a little bit thin with the depth, considering that this is going to be a league where we actually have to go through and we have to start 10 players each and every week. So this team can really benefit from bringing in another wide receiver or running back. That way we're not having to plan on playing a DJ Chark level caliber player in the flex spot each and every week. We also have to remember here, this is going to be a situation that this is the best starting lineup we have. Once we get to the bye weeks, and maybe you are missing, say, Brandon Ayuk and Jamar Chase in a single week, then at that point, we are having to go down to the bench. We are having to go through and throw KJ Osborne, throw Nico Collins into the starting lineup. And then obviously, we can have injuries through the course of the season. So if we are already feeling the lack of depth where we're having to start DJ Chark week 1, then yeah, this is a team that I feel like we can go through. We can bolster the bench up just a bit, which is something we usually don't talk about a lot. But TJ Hawkinson at tight end, my mind, great tight end to have. I think you can make a very strong argument that TJ Hawkinson is a top 3 tight end in Dynasty at the minimum. And I don't want to say he's my tight end 1, but if someone were to tell me, Mason, look at what TJ Hawkinson's done throughout his NFL career. Like, let's go ahead and let's pull this up. TJ Hawkinson was a phenomenal prospect coming out of Iowa. TJ Hawkinson was incredibly young in that 2021 NFL draft. TJ Hawkinson, since being drafted, 2019 NFL draft, what am I talking about, has been very good. He's only gotten better as well. If we're going through this, his rookie season, 30 receiving yards per game. At 22 years old, that's great for a tight end. Second year, 45 receiving yards per game. Third year, 48 receiving yards per game. Fourth year, 53. Fifth year, 56 receiving yards per game. You've only seen continued improvement from TJ Hawkinson throughout his entire NFL career. Now, of course, there's going to be the outside chance that the Minnesota Vikings are able to go through and they're able to actually address their wide receiver 2 hole in the NFL draft. The Minnesota Vikings decide to go grab Jackson Smith and Jigba. They decide to grab Jordan Addison. And at that point, honestly, it probably would take a small hit to Hawkinson. Whereas of now, you have Jamar Chase as the wide receiver 1. And then afterwards, you literally have nothing. You have nothing in Minnesota. They move on from Adam Thielen. KJ Osborne's the only guy left over. So Hawkinson, in my mind, is in a phenomenal situation. TJ Hawkinson, an incredibly young player going into his age 26 season. We know usually tight ends don't start to peak until about 27, 28. So I love where we're sitting at tight end. And going over to the rookie draft, it is an interesting place to be because 102, we're definitely going to be quarterback. You're going to be Bryce Young. You're going to be CJ Stroud, maybe even mix in an Anthony Richardson. We are probably going to be throwing a quarterback in at that pick. But going back to what we were discussing previously, we have Watson, we have Lance, and we have Goff. So we don't really need quarterback help. That's like the last thing that this team needs. Really, the only thing that this team needs is not necessarily exactly a running back or exactly a wide receiver. We just need someone to play in the flex. We just need one of those positions. So I think that we have a couple different options. What is not on the table is taking Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jahmyr Gibbs at 2. Whatever you do, you cannot do that. If you stay at 2, you're going to have to take a quarterback. If that's the decision you decide to make, then at that point, I'd be interested in going through and seeing what we could get for Jared Goff. I am almost positive there is a Detroit Lions fan in your league. I am almost positive we can get a decent amount of value for Goff with how much hype the Detroit Lions have currently and how many fans they apparently have. Now, we could also trade back. If we were to look to trade back from the 102, I'm going to be trying to get to the 105, 106, and pick up an additional late first. So if we could go through, if we could move from the 102 to say the 106, and then throw in like the 110 as we do it, even if we have to include another pick, even if we have to include, say, a future third. So we trade the 102, that 2024 third round pick that we have extra, and we get back the 106, 110, or just replace any veteran with the 110 that's of equivalent value. I would really like that, in that we are going to be able to bolster the depth that we have with this team. We are going to be able to do so at a value where if we break down the tiers 106, in my mind, you are guaranteed to get a very good player. Bijan 1, top 3 quarterbacks 2 through 4, and then 5 and 6, you have Gibbs and Jackson Smith and Jigba. We don't know which guy yet. If you want to trade for 5 and have your choice of the 2, go for it. But I would say trade for 6, probably going to get it at a even bigger discount, and we can pick up an extra piece while we're at it. And honestly, feel free to throw in Sam Howell. If you can find someone that'll give you something respectable for Sam Howell, I'd really like to do it. I understand that it looks like a decent situation right now in Washington. I just have absolutely no faith. But I think overall, it's a very good team. It has an elite group of guys at the top. Keep in mind, it's an extreme tight end premium format. We have a phenomenal tight end. We have very strong quarterbacks. We have an elite running back core. And we have Jamar Chase to build around at wide receiver. Like, it's hard to come up with any complaints with this team in particular. It's more so about just going through and trying to get value where we can that fits with this roster. If you can't trade back, yeah, you don't need another quarterback, but you're still going to go best player available in the rookie draft. You're still taking Bryce Young. You're still taking CJ Stroud in my mind. It's very hard to get away from that. I think you'd have to be a crazy man to go through and take like Jackson Smith and Jigba over one of those quarterbacks in Superflex. But thank you again, my friend, for being a long-time member of the flock and supporting the channel. I definitely do appreciate it. And let's just work our way up here. Let's go over to Wade. Now, Wade is going to be playing in a 12-team, one-quarterback format. Thank you, my man, for being a member of the flock. And, of course, real quick, let me put this little caveat out there. If you are a part of flockfantasy.com, if you are in the flock, this goes specifically to Wade, specifically to Al Johnson, please, if there is anything you ever want to see on this site, regardless of if that's something we can be doing better currently, or if it's something that we can add on that's completely different than what we currently have, let me know ASAP. Anything you want, I will try to get done for you. I will send it over to the developers immediately and see if it's possible and see what a timeline would look like on it. We got a lot that we're working on right now. Could not be more excited about where the site's currently at, but we have a ton of improvements that we're bringing your way continuously, and I'd love to add whatever you want on the docket as well. Okay, but so let's go ahead and let's dive into Wade's team here. Now, this is going to be a one quarterback league, as we already mentioned, but you are getting a boosted quarterback scoring format. You're going to be looking at a quarterback scoring league where you are getting 1 point per 20 passing yards rather than 25. You are going to be getting 6 points per passing touchdown rather than 4. And whenever I'm playing in a league like this, what I want to see is I want to see pocket passing quarterbacks that can lead the NFL in passing. In a 4-point passing touchdown league where you're getting 1 point per 25 passing yards, then at that point, honestly, I'm going after the quarterbacks that have elite rushing ceilings. At that point, it's like, okay, yeah, let's go get Lamar Jackson, because it doesn't really matter if Lamar Jackson doesn't have any passing volume. Based off his rushing production, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to catch up with him. If we're going to be looking at Justin Fields, another example. Justin Fields, yeah, maybe the Chicago Bears were the worst passing offense since 2009 this past year, but in a 4-point passing touchdown league where you're getting 1 point per 25 passing yards, he's an elite fantasy option because of the rushing upside. If you're playing in a 6-point passing touchdown league with 20 yards equaling 1 point, this all of a sudden means that the Joe Burrows of the world that may not necessarily have the 800 rushing yards in a single season, with passing volume, they can catch up to those rushing quarterbacks and they can even pass them, which I personally really like because obviously it kind of just makes the position a little more balanced. Now, going over to rushing, nothing to really talk about. Going over to receiving, nothing to really talk about. I mean, it's just going to be a full PPR league. Kicking, I mean, are we really playing with the kicker here? Defense, I would embarrass myself if I tried to talk about that at all. One thing that I really like to know your opinion on. Personally, I have not changed my roster construction strategy too much when we look at this. But leagues that have these bonus scoring aspects. In my mind, when you have these bonus scoring aspects, it doesn't change much because, oh, what do we want? We now want players that touch the ball a ton. We want players that rack up a lot of yards, aka rack up a lot of fantasy points. We're already looking for that. But I do think that you could maybe use this as an argument in saying, well, you know what? Maybe we should go through and maybe we should try to build a little bit more around studs and duds rather than a well-balanced team, because really the studs are going to be the only guys who have the ability to even get to these bonuses. So that's definitely one way that you could approach it. I mean, I'm not really going to be changing too many things based on those scoring numbers or bonus numbers. I apologize. Now, going over and pulling up this starting lineup, I know it's a little deceiving because we are starting a kicker and a DST, but I'm going to be completely ignoring the kicker and DST here. And what I want to be focusing in on is how shallow this starting lineup is. We start one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, and two flex spots. So we have 8 total starters here on the offensive side of the ball. Don't care about kicker. Don't care about DST, if we're going to be honest. So if I'm going to be looking at this, going back to what we were discussing with the bonuses, maybe this pushes us even more in the direction of studs and duds, studs and duds, studs and duds. When we were looking at Al Johnson's team, we were saying, okay, yeah, we have the studs. Maybe we want a little bit of depth, but that was because we had to start 10 offensive players. Here, where we only had to start 8, the depth doesn't really matter that much. We can just build around a few studs and get the job done. You have Cooper Kupp 2 years ago in this league. It doesn't matter what the rest of the roster is looking like. He is just going to carry you to victory in a format this shallow. Now, starting off a quarterback, love having Josh Allen, quarterback boosted scoring. We already discussed this. I mean, Josh Allen, in my mind, is almost the perfect guy for this format. Of course, he's going to give you some rushing upside as well. Now, going down to the bench, I mean, you're going to see that we actually have Trey Lance. Now, you know Trey Lance is a quarterback that I have in so many freaking Dynasty leagues. I drafted Trey Lance over Justin Fields everywhere. I was obnoxious about it as well. Turns out that I was very wrong, but regardless, I have Lance in a lot of leagues. Now, with Trey Lance, in a 4-point passing touchdown format where you're getting 1 point per 25 passing yards, I love the man. He's in an elite situation in San Francisco, and at the same time, he has all the rushing upside in the world. But specifically in this format, I wouldn't be opposed to possibly go through and look to see what we could get for Lance. Like I said, I love the guy, but I don't think he fits this format where you're getting 6 points per passing touchdown and 1 point per 20 passing yards. Like I said, I think instead we should be selling the quarterbacks that provide the majority of the rushing production and buying the quarterbacks that maybe we can get at a discount that are pocket passing options. But that's just an outside thing. You don't have to do it. Just a random thought. Now, going over to running back, we're going to be rolling with Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, both 3-down bell cow running backs. What is there to discuss? We're very happy with that situation. And then going down to the bench, I mean, we have Cam Akers. Don't really know the situation Akers will be in this next season, but hell, I mean, we have Cooper Kupp, so already betting on the Los Angeles Rams offense to have a massive bounce back, so might as well go ahead and double down there. Really like the running back room, feel like we're very balanced. Now, going over to wide receiver, rolling with Garrett Wilson. So it's very interesting. Is this a team that's going all in on the New York Jets as well, where we have Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, with the assumption Aaron Rodgers comes to New York? I think that this is a team that you could see Breece Hall easily be a top 5 running back. You could see Garrett Wilson be a top 5 wide receiver. So I personally really like where we stand on that front. I like making that one consolidated bet and going pretty much all in on a few offenses, especially if we think that we can get them at a discount. Now, going over to Calvin Ridley, I mean, Calvin Ridley, last time we saw him, he was a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy, but at the same time, Calvin Ridley has an extremely low floor. Who knows? Maybe Calvin Ridley, I mean, is so far away from football over the past 2 years that he kind of loses a step, that he's just not the player he was previously. But in this format, we're chasing an extremely high ceiling and don't really care about the floor, so I really like Ridley. Same thing with Kupp. I mean, with Cooper Kupp, the man could be a wide receiver 1. He probably will be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy if he stays healthy this upcoming season. Love Cooper Kupp. Treylon Burks, a very interesting spot to be in. I mean, the Tennessee Titans really have no depth at all at wide receiver, but this could be a very bad team this next year. I really don't care, though, because we have Jahan Dotson. I think Jahan Dotson's phenomenal. I would actually rather have him over Burks, where they'd be damn close for me. I think this is a team that is more than enough wide receiver depth for this format. Darren Waller, tight end, is definitely a player that has lost a step over the past 2 seasons, but we have to remember that Darren Waller, back whenever he was playing for the Raiders and they had no help at wide receiver, the man averaged 8.5 to 9 targets a game during that 2-season stretch. I would classify the Giants as a team that has no help at wide receiver. I think that Darren Waller could come in. Darren Waller could be a tight end 1 in fantasy over the next few seasons. Now, of course, it's not guaranteed that that's going to be the case, but it's definitely a possibility, and it's definitely in the range of outcomes. I'm completely fine betting on the old veteran tight end there with Darren Waller. Going down the bench, I know some people like Isaiah Likely. He's not really going to be much, but overall, great roster top to bottom, no real holes. So when we go over and see this, this is just obnoxious. How does everybody have Bijan Robinson on their team? Every single team we look at has the 101. We are adding Bijan Robinson to a running back room of Breece Hall and Travis Etienne. This starting lineup is going to have Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Cooper Kupp in one of the flex spots, and Bijan Robinson in the other. Obnoxious. Going down to the 106, this goes back to what we were discussing previously, and me saying that I feel like we shouldn't necessarily prioritize trying to come away with depth here. And instead, what we should try to prioritize is just trying to chase players that have an elite level ceiling. We already have a phenomenal roster. We already have more than enough depth. We have an extra 2024 first at the same time. I mean, we have 2 extra 2024 first, okay? So we are always going to be able to make a move if we need to. We are in a phenomenal situation. We don't have to worry about that whatsoever. So if we were to go through and if we were to possibly make some changes, one thing that I'd really like exploring is trying to trade from the 106 up into a top 5 pick. Because if we break this down, keep in mind this is a 1 quarterback format, but you're going to be looking at Bijan 1, then afterwards JSN Gibbs, we don't know which order, but 2 and 3. And then after that, we're probably going to have Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison. Zach Charbonnet could possibly fall in that tier, but I'm a little bit worried in saying that he is guaranteed to be in that same tier as Jordan Addison before we know the landing spot, before we know the draft capital. We know that's actually going to matter a lot more at running back than it will wide receiver. So I would rather not even have to rely on that because this team is so good. I don't see the 202. I don't see the 207. I don't see the 212 making any realistic difference at all. So what I would probably do, to be honest with you, is I'd probably approach the owner at the 105 and go, hey man, I'll give you the 106, the 207 for the 105. I would approach the other owner at the 104 with the same offer. Tell them, hey man, I'll give you the 106, the 207 for the 104. Let them tell you, oh no, it's kind of close. I like where I'm picking. I want to wait till the rookie draft. And then when they tell you no to that, be like, okay, well, I'll give you the 202. Instead of the 207, how about the 106 and 202 for the 105, 104? I think that's a deal that you can get done. And for this roster in particular, those second round picks aren't making a difference. Like realistically speaking, in a 1 quarterback format, who are we expecting to get in the second round that makes a difference for a team that has Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Bijan Robinson? Do we really think Tank Bigsby is going to be that important? No, I would rather make sure we have the ability to go out there and grab Quentin Johnston, someone that I could actually see making a difference in this league. Whereas those players in the middle of the second round, I don't necessarily see how they possibly could, if I'm going to be honest. It seems a little too good for it. But I think that's kind of all we have. There's not much I can say here, my friend. I mean, it's going to be a smooth ride for you this upcoming season. We have players that are going to score a crap ton of points. We have players that are going to continue to rise in value. And we have 3 2024 firsts in case anything goes wrong. But thank you again so much for being a part of the flock, my friend. Thank you for supporting the channel. Really hope you were able to get something from it. And as always, do not hesitate to reach out to me if there is anything that you want or any way I can improve flockfantasy.com for you. But let's go over and let's look at Brand's team here. This is going to be another 12-team league. This one, PPR Superflex. We're going to be pulling up the league settings. Very, very standard stuff. Literally just super standard league settings. PPR. That's all we need to know. Nothing else that we need to discuss there. Opening up this in a browser will take me just 1 second, so I apologize as I open this up. Of course, if you want to get your team broken down on a podcast, you can do so on flockfantasy.com when you sign up with promo code FLOCK with the link in the live chat, the link in the description, the link in the comment section. You'll get 30% off any subscription. And when you sign up for the Mother Flocker tier with promo code FLOCK, I will personally go through and break down your team in a podcast and make sure you're taking advantage of that. But let's go ahead and let's pull up this team here. So I love, first off, that we have Tom Brady at quarterback. Now, of course, I don't necessarily know what Tom Brady will be doing this next season. I don't know if he's going to be in Cancun. I don't know if he's going to be at Playa del Carmen. I don't know if he probably has some exclusive private beach he'll be at. But what I do know is having him here at quarterback is going to provide us the locker room presence that we need to make sure that Alvin Kamara is doing what he needs to make sure Jarrett McKinnon's doing what he needs to make sure Ayuk, to make sure Amari Cooper, they're all in line. They're all doing exactly what we want. Okay. So first off, great locker room presence that we have at quarterback at the very top. Now going down to the super flex spot, we have Geno Smith. Looks like Baker Mayfield is actually probably, I don't know if he's outweighing Tom Brady, but he's definitely the counterpoint to that locker room presence. I don't know how much Baker Mayfield is going to be helping there, but who knows? Maybe Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for Tampa, and he could be a serviceable quarterback 3 during bye weeks this next year. Now, please tell me you have some rookie picks to address the position. Okay, so we do not have rookie picks to address the position. We may be in a difficult spot this next season, ladies and gentlemen. Going over to running back, we are going to be starting Alvin Kamara, Jarrett McKinnon. Now, I like the price point of Alvin Kamara in redraft leagues right now. If you head over to Underdog Fantasy and you opt in a draft just for 2023, you'll see you can get Alvin Kamara as a running back 3. I think this is because a lot of people are pricing in that he's probably going to serve some kind of suspension, that obviously is not the player that he previously was. But regardless of the case, we are looking at Alvin Kamara as, at this point of his career, at best, pretty much a mid running back 2. We have Jarrett McKinnon. Don't necessarily know what we're going to be expecting from him. We have Christian McCaffrey, running back 1, holding down the fort. Just getting a little nervous here looking at this team. Wide receiver, we have Tyreek Hill. Definitely a great veteran to have. Amari Cooper, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson. And then going down to the bench, I mean, we really don't have anybody. Maybe you were excited about Darnell Mooney before the DJ Moore trade. But at this point, I mean, with DJ Moore coming over, Darnell Mooney in the offense is going to have no passing volume. Very, very difficult to get excited about him. I mean, very difficult to ever assume that he can be a player that hits your starting lineup. Going over to tight ends, we have Travis Kelce. I just think that this is such an interesting case of a dynasty team that in my mind, all of the top pieces will be less valuable next offseason than they are now. It doesn't matter if Travis Kelce is the tight end 1 overall in fantasy this year at 34 years old. Next year, when he's about to go into his age 35 season, it doesn't matter what Travis Kelce does this season. He will have less dynasty trade value than he does currently. Tyreek Hill, it does not matter if he is the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy. He will have less dynasty trade value next offseason than he does currently. Christian McCaffrey, it does not matter if he is the number 1 overall running back in fantasy next season. He will be less valuable. If we go up, I would say the same thing about Alvin Kamara. It doesn't matter if Alvin Kamara is some massive smash. He's still a running back 1 in fantasy. Next offseason, he will be less valuable. Doesn't matter if Amari Cooper is a wide receiver 1. I mean, you get the point. We have so many veterans that it doesn't matter what they do this upcoming season. They will have less value next offseason than they do today. So your initial reaction is, okay, maybe we should go through, maybe we should sell some of these assets. But still, at the same time, when you look top to bottom with this team, it is maybe not the most likely scenario, but it is entirely possible that this team could win the league this next year. It's possible. Kelsey's the tight end 1, Tyreek's the wide receiver 1, CMC's the running back 1. It's in the range of outcomes. Now, at the same time, I do think we have some glaring holes on this team. Like if we're going back to quarterback, Tom Brady retiring puts us in a very difficult position. You have Brady retiring. You have Geno Smith giving us God knows what, maybe mid quarterback 2 production at the very best this next year. Baker Mayfield giving us quarterback 3 production. Is that what we're really hoping for? There's an outside chance that we have 2 quarterback 3s in our starting lineup, and we don't have the draft capital to go through and make an adjustment. I think that this puts us in an interesting spot in that we kind of have to make a decision. I really don't like telling people this, but I feel like this is a team that doesn't have enough dynasty trade value to just hit the reset button to start selling off these assets for 2024 picks and then be able to compete next year. I don't know if this team's going to be able to be competitive next year almost regardless. So I kind of like the idea of just going, quote unquote, all in to win this season and then burning it down next offseason. It is something to explore. What I want to explore is Kyle Pitts here. I think Kyle Pitts could be the key to make this a competitive roster. I think Kyle Pitts could be the key to kind of plug a couple of the holes that we really need to fill. If we were to be able to go through and trade away Kyle Pitts, we were able to get a quarterback 1 in Dynasty, then at that point, this starting lineup with Geno Smith as your quarterback 2 rather than Baker Mayfield, and say with a different QB1, I think it could have a chance to actually make a run at something. Without that move, I don't see it happening. And at the same time, because all these players are so damn old, you kind of have to make a move. So what I want to do real quick is let me pull up the rankings on flogfantasy.com. Let me just show you, in my mind, what you could possibly be expecting in return for Kyle Pitts. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pulling up. Okay, so here, obviously, you go to flogfantasy.com. We're just going to be looking at quarterbacks, tight ends. This is sorted by average, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add myself here so I can just look at my rankings. I'm going to sort by my rankings. So if I'm going to look at Kyle Pitts, I currently have Kyle Pitts at 29 overall in our rankings. If I'm going to look at the players that I have directly ahead of Pitts, I have the rookie quarterbacks. I have Anthony Richardson. I have Bryce Young. I have CJ Stroud. The players I have directly after Pitts, I have Dak Prescott. I have Tua. So in my mind, if we really wanted to be competitive this upcoming season, I wouldn't hate the idea of going through and seeing if we could sell Kyle Pitts for one of these players. I think, honestly, you probably could. I think you could actually bolster the depth here as well a bit. If you wanted to explore the possibility of, say, on this team in particular, trading Kyle Pitts for the 104 and then another asset that we can have as depth. Say, maybe trading Kyle Pitts for the 104, and then let's throw up a depth running back here. These are sorted by my rankings. Say 104 and Dameon Pierce. I think that could make a lot of sense for this team. I think that that could make this team a contender. Now, if we are getting the 104, then at that point, we're bringing in either Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Anthony Richardson. Well, of course, they won't be automatic QB1s in fantasy. It's not like these are the perfect win now players, but we're not sacrificing all of our long-term upside. And at the same time, you could see them being significantly better than Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith in fantasy this next year. Like, is it guaranteed, say, Anthony Richardson comes in and starts scoring more points than Geno Smith? No, it's not guaranteed, but it is possible. And I'd say the same thing with Bryce Young, same thing with CJ Stroud, and with a couple of those QBs, I would actually probably say it's likely. So let me know what you think of that. And can y'all please let me know in the live chat right now, if you were approached with this trade, would you consider accepting? If you were to sell would you buy Kyle Pitts for the 104 in a depth low-end RB2? Would you send the 104 for and a low-end RB2 for Kyle Pitts? Please let me know in the live chat right now. We have like 150 people out here. And of course, as I wait for your response, if you want to get your Dynasty team broken down on a live stream or in a private podcast, go sign up for flogfantasy.com. Use promo code FLOG and also get access to all my rankings. Get access to the rankings of all your favorite creators. Instead of naming them out, we can just show the logos right there. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Okay. So Ronnie says, if I traded it, I would need a wide receiver and picks. Okay. Admiral says he would probably go through, and yeah, so it looks like that's a deal you could probably make. You could probably get the 104 and another depth piece for Kyle Pitts. And let me know what you think of this. I generally don't like telling people to sell Kyle Pitts because it's entirely possible Kyle Pitts comes out and he is the tight end 1 overall in fantasy, and then all of a sudden he's a first-round starter pick again. It's entirely possible, but I think it actually does make some sense on this team that's ready to contend now, missing some key pieces. It has Travis Kelce on it. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Let's shut this off. Pivot over to Discord. So I think we've gone through Brand's team, Wade's team, Al Johnson's team. So let's keep on going up. Okay, so I don't know if we can use that on YouTube. Okay, so CC Runner telling us we are allowed to use this on YouTube. Thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. So this is going to be a team that we have a lot to look at here. But it says, love what you do, Mason. Sorry if the format's weird to send. Never used Discord before, so it's all new. Can't wait to hear what you think. Sold some veterans last offseason. Biggest mistake was selling Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith. Ooh. Last year before the draft to get a 2023 first. How do I recover from that? Also can use for YouTube or wherever you like. Thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock again. So let's go ahead and let's pull this up. First thing, I want to look at the scoring format. Ooh, what the heck? I have never seen this kind of font on Sleeper. Is this like did you have to have some custom font? Is this like Android? What's going on here? But anyway, let's go ahead and let's look at this. 6 point per passing touchdown format. We already discussed how that makes us adjust quarterback value just a bit. We're going to be going more so towards those pocket passing options rather than just the pure rushing options. Going to be a half point per reception league as well. Rushing going to be completely normal. Kicking, we're not looking at. And I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. If I try to give you any advice on IDP, I would legitimately embarrass myself and probably, I don't know. I lose all respect from you. I promise you, whatever your current IDP strategy is, it will be better than what I have to say. Let me just look at the IDP starting requirements here. Okay, so you start 1 defensive lineman, 1 linebacker, 1 DB. Okay, so you start so few players on the defensive side of the ball that honestly the IDP side of it doesn't even really matter. So we don't even have to focus in on that at all. But let's go through and oh my gosh, selling Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith for future first looks even more brutal considering the fact that this is a 2 quarterback league where we are currently rolling with Jordan Love, Brock Purdy in the starting lineup. Let's go down to the bench. We have Jameis Winston, Davis Mills, Jacoby Brissett. So really nobody on the bench at quarterback. Going down to taxi squad, we are rolling with Drake London. We have a couple good wide receivers on the taxi squad. Going over to the rookie picks, thank God we actually have some rookie picks that we can be playing around with. We have the 101, 102. It will be a massive difference maker here, and that makes me a lot more excited about this team. Now, going over to running back, I mean, obviously, we're going to have Bijan Robinson coming in with the 101, but if we're going to be looking beyond that, I mean, we have Dameon Pierce down there in one of the flex spots. Down on the bench, we have Alexander Madison, who just re-signs in Minnesota. Actually got a pretty good deal. I like the landing spot for Alexander Madison. But really, we have nobody. We have Dameon Pierce, Bijan Robinson, Alexander Madison. We do have a couple other picks that we can fire at later on with running backs. We'll get to that in just 1 second. Let's go over and look at the wide receiver position. And in my mind, this is a wide receiver premium league. Now, let me go through exactly why that is. If we are looking at the starting lineup requirements here, we have to start 3 wide receivers. Not only do we have to start 3 wide receivers, but we have 4 flex spots. So this is like a start 11 league on the offensive side of the ball. This is what I personally play in. And in my mind, whenever you can start up to 11 offensive players, when you can start up to 7 wide receivers, it gives you such an advantage to build around that position in general. Because you can tell your league mates, hey, yeah, you can beat me at quarterback 1, quarterback 2, but I'm going to beat you at wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, flex 1, flex 2, flex 3, flex 4, and you can kill them with 1,000 paper cuts. It's not possible if you're playing in a league where you only start 8 guys. If you're playing in a league where you only start 8 guys and your league mates are crushing you at quarterback, you can't really catch up from it. You can't do anything. You can't fight back. But here we can. Here we definitely can. So I really like to see what we have with Jamar Chase as our wide receiver 1, and then going down there to the taxi squad, we are rolling with Drake London, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson. We have Donovan Peoples-Jones in the starting lineup as well, but we have so much young wide receiver talent. All these players are ascending, so you're very excited about where we currently stand. I mean, Treylon Burks breaking out or not this upcoming season is actually going to make a massive difference in this format for this league in particular. I mean, this is, in my mind, the exact kind of league we just want to be loading up on as many young, talented wide receivers as we possibly can. But let's go over and let's look at the rookie picks that we have, because my initial thought to this when I saw that this was the league we had to start 2 quarterbacks is that we are possibly going to be going with a quarterback at the 105 as well, but not after seeing the fact that we can start 7 wide receivers. Even if we are, quote unquote, loaded at wide receiver, keep in mind, we can start 7. So even if we start all of our great guys, we start Jamar Chase, we start Christian Watson, we start Treylon Burks, we start Jahan Dotson, we start Drake London, we still have 2 open spots we can put wide receivers in. And that's not accounting for the bye weeks. It's not accounting for injuries. It's not accounting for the fact that probably one of these guys will bust. Probably you'll have either Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks not working out. We don't know which one, but of course it's a game of probabilities. So I don't mind just going through and making a strength stronger. Going through and looking at the wide receiver room saying, yeah, it's the strength of this team, but that's how we build in this format. Of course, we're taking Bijan Robinson at 1. Of course, we're taking your favorite quarterback at 2. If you want Stroud, Young, Richardson, up to you, whatever the hell you want. I think we will get some clarity by the time we're at the NFL draft, but we definitely need to bring in another quarterback here. We can't be going into the season with Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. Now, going over to the 105, like I said, my initial reaction was to say, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take Will Levis here. That way we can make sure that we are solid at both of the quarterback spots. So we can have that quarterback platoon of Jordan Love, say CJ Stroud and Will Levis. And we could say, okay, at least 2 of these guys are going to work out. But I think that with this league being so wide receiver centric in my mind, I actually kind of like the idea of Jackson Smith and Jigba at 5. Now, of course, if we end up getting one of the top 3 quarterbacks falling to us, if we have either Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, or Bryce Young fall at 5, we can double tap the quarterback position 102 and 105. I would love, and I would dare one of your league mates at pick 3 or pick 4 to take Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jahmyr Gibbs. It would put us in a phenomenal spot. I really hope it happens. But as of now, we're probably going JSN at 5. 106, I'd imagine, is Jahmyr Gibbs. 107, I think in this format in particular, it will be up to you. If you wanted to go with Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison, depending on landing spot over Will Levis, I'd be fine with it because we can start 7 wide receivers. But also, because we have to start 2 QBs, I don't mind going Will Levis at all at 7 either. I do think that in most leagues, he's actually going to be the end of that tier with JSN as well as Jahmyr Gibbs. Going over to the second round, I mean, I think that we're just going to be taking shots on guys that we like the landing spot, and maybe the draft capital bumps up their profile a bit. Maybe some of those running backs like Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, really whoever we like landing there. Now, of course, the late 3rd and early 5th round picks, you're probably going to end up using on IDP players. I am not an IDP expert by any means, but I will say just from a general thought process standpoint, when you only have to start 3 defensive players and we have to start 11 offensive players, those IDP guys don't really matter, to be honest. Like, I don't think we should be building our rookie draft strategy around them. I think that they're going to be late throw-ins. I mean, if we're going to be looking at the amount of bench defensive players you're rostering none. So it tells us that the waiver wire should be loaded up with defensive players. Like I said, I would be lying to you if I told you I was an IDP expert, but I personally wouldn't be stressing about it too much. I think this is a very good team. I am very excited about it. This is all... I think we even forgot to mention, Mark Andrews at tight end. Obviously, we have Mark Andrews at tight end. We don't have to make any moves here. But I really love this format, my friend. And this is, in my mind, kind of the best way to be playing Dynasty Fantasy Football. But thank you again for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I genuinely do appreciate it. Like I always say, if there's anything I can be doing better for you, do not hesitate. Reach out to me right away. Let me know what that is. You can even just say, Mason, you know what? Everything on flogfantasy.com is great, but I would love this one thing to be improved, or I'd love this one thing to be added. Let me know that. Please, 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 and I'll send it over to the developers ASAP. But thank you so much again for being a part of the flock, my friend. Okay, but now let's go over to our next team. So this does not say we can use it on YouTube. Okay. This does not either. Okay, Adam says we can use it on YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at Adam's team here. Thank you again, my friend, for being a member of the flock. Adam has also been a long time member of the flock. Says, hey, Mason, appreciate all the help and love the videos. Home League, 10-team Superflex, PPR, tight end premium, start 11. Finished as the runner-up this past year and hoping to improve. Not sure what moves I could look to make at this point. Good to use for a video if you choose. Okay, so let's go ahead. Before we look at the starting lineup or anything, let's just look at the league settings here. So super standard, if we're going to be looking at the passing settings, we're not going to be changing from a 4-point to a 5-point passing touchdown league. Strategy remains the same. Rushing, super standard, and nothing changes. I mean, you have obviously the bonuses, but it's like a 1-point bonus. Who cares? Going over to receiving, same thing. Nothing changes. All we need to know is it's full PPR. And we do have some additional bonuses here. I mean, going back to what I was discussing at the very beginning of this live stream, I don't necessarily think that we should be changing our strategy much with these bonuses, because at the end of the day, I mean, if we're going to go ahead, if we're going to be breaking this down, what do we want with these bonuses? We want very talented players that get a lot of volume that can have big games. We're already looking for that. Okay, that's already what we're going for every single league. So it's not like we're changing much. You can maybe make the argument you should go with a little more of a studs and duds approach rather than building around depth with the bonuses. But what the hell am I looking at here? How many teams are in this league? 10-team league, start 11. There are some teams that are sitting like this that I just want to say, my friend, what do you want from me? What the hell am I supposed to do? All right, let's go ahead. Okay, this team doesn't have any 2024 picks. Okay, that makes sense because this is a monstrous roster. If we break this down, Justin Jefferson, round 1 startup pick. CeeDee Lamb, round 1 startup pick. Breece Hall, round 2 startup pick. Deshaun Watson, round 2 startup pick. So we have 4 players inside the top 2 rounds of startups. Travis Etienne, 3rd round startup pick. Kyle Pitts, 3rd, 4th round startup pick. Then we still have guys like Jerry Jeudy, George Kittle, Tua, Derrick Henry, Brandon. We still have so much talent on this team. This is a phenomenal roster. Let's go through. Let's break it down position by position. Starting at QB, we're going to have Deshaun Watson and Tua. Down there on the bench, we even have Trey Lance and Kirk Cousins. Okay, so quarterback, we have no issues whatsoever. We have both an extremely high ceiling and very high floor if those guys like Trey Lance don't work out, because trust me, I mean, I have Trey Lance everywhere, but it's entirely possible Lance never works out. So I'm really hoping that's not the case, but it is possible, right? I mean, it's possible to say the least. So even if that does not happen, we'll still have Cousins. We'll still have Tua. We'll still be chilling. We're good at quarterback. Now, going over to running back, we're going to be looking at a running back room of Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne. Then down there on the bench, I mean, really not too much to be discussing. This is maybe the one weak spot that we could be pointing out with this, where we have Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, and then nothing beyond it. Usually, I'm fine not having depth there. Usually, I mean, hell, we are going to get such a high expected value with those 3 RBs that it doesn't really matter in terms of maybe getting to a bye week and having to leave one of the spots empty, or having to go through and put someone that only projects to see 5 or 6 touches in there, having to throw Jerick McKinnon in. Jerick McKinnon's even fine. Obviously, he was great this past year. But the reason I'm a little bit concerned about not having depth with this league in particular is going over to the rookie picks that we're going to be rolling with. It's a team where we don't have any of our 2024 picks. The only 2024 picks that we have are going to be 3rd rounders, which obviously are meaningless. And in 2025, we only have 1 first. So what I'm a little bit worried about is once we see that injury, say to Derrick Henry, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I mean, crazier things in the world have happened than a 29-year-old running back going down this next year. Say Derrick Henry gets injured, and then maybe even Travis Etienne. Both of them go down. It's crazier things have happened than 2 starting running backs going down in the NFL. Then at that point, if we were to go through and try to plug that hole, we don't really have the ammo to do so. Without the depth and without the rookie picks in particular, this is the Titanic here, where we are smooth sailing, right? We have such a strong team. We're going through, we're telling everybody, hey, look at this ship. We are going to take down the championship. No issues. We're smooth sailing from here. Everybody look at me. Then we hit the iceberg. And because we traded away those future picks, because we don't really have depth at the same time, there are no lifeboats on the ship. Yeah, there's a decent shot that the Titanic can have smooth sailing all the way to the U.S. We avoid icebergs. We're good to go. We're chilling. But I do always get nervous when we don't have the lifeboats aboard. Going over to wide receiver, hell, what the hell am I supposed to say? We have Justin Jefferson, we have CeeDee Lamb, we have Brandon Ayuk, we have Jerry Jeudy. We are in a phenomenal spot. Going down in the bench, I mean, not too much to discuss. We don't have really any depth, but very similar to running back. We are so loaded up that, like, these guys stay healthy. It doesn't really matter. At tight end, we're rolling with Kyle Pitts as well as George Kittle. Kittle's very interesting in that this is a tight end that can easily hit the bonuses that we have. Obviously, we know that George Kittle has some crazy games every single season where you just get those massive spike weeks. But at the same time, if we're going to be looking at George Kittle, while he was drafted in 2017, the man stayed all 5 years in college. It's actually very similar to Cooper Kupp in that way. Cooper Kupp was drafted in 2017, but he stayed so long in college that Cooper Kupp turns 30 this offseason. And George Kittle is turning 30 in October. So Kittle's just one of those guys that you would naturally assume is a little bit younger than he actually is. So I would just be on the lookout at this point to see, okay, maybe we should just be monitoring the trade value we could get for George Kittle. Now, of course, we have Lance, Ayuk, Kittle all on the same team, so we have that double stack, so we probably feel very comfortable with the San Francisco 49ers offense, and you're probably a 49ers fan if we're going to be rolling with that double stack. But with this team not having its future picks, with this team already having Kyle Pitts, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is not a tight end premium format. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Yeah, this isn't a tight end premium format. I wouldn't mind at all if we were to go through it and approach the rest of our league and say, hey, I will sell George Kittle for a low-end wide receiver 2 and a 2024 first. Clearly, this team doesn't have any need for a 2024 first right now, correct? This team's planning on contending this season. We're in a phenomenal spot to win. But if we were looking at the raw points per game from a low-end wide receiver 2 to George Kittle, it's not going to be wildly different. Maybe 2.5 points per game difference in a non-tight end premium format. And having that 2024 first, even if we don't plan on keeping it through the entire season, that will be the lifeboat where if one of our running backs goes down, then during the year, we at least have a piece where we can go and, fix the sinking ship. We can go and trade that 2024 first for a running back that maybe is having a surprising season. Just say, what if J.K. Dobbins ends up being a running back 1 next year? And then all of a sudden he's on a team in your league that's rebuilding, and we can go sell that if Derrick Henry were to go down. But of course, that's why I just like having those extra first round picks. That way we can go through and we can have the flexibility during the season. Kyle Pitts, horrible this past year, obviously. Drake London actually, had a very respectable target share in year 1. But Kyle Pitts still only 22 years old. Like, Kyle Pitts, incredibly young. Not too worried about Kyle Pitts whatsoever. I think that he will be a mid tight end 1 this upcoming season. I think he'll be a mid tight end 1 for a very, very long time. So I think you're in a comfortable spot, my friend, on that right. So I think we have a great team. Really, the only move that I think we could possibly look to make is that George Kittle one. That way we just have the flexibility during the season. And I would definitely be looking for a depth wide receiver return just because we don't have those future picks. But it's a phenomenal team, one reason or another. But thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the vlog for so damn long now. Thank you for supporting the channel. I really hope you were able to get something from that. But let's go ahead and let's puts up our next team here. Okay. This one going to be coming out from Justin. This is, hey Mason, thanks for doing this. This is a 10-team full PPR, 1 quarterback plus 0.1 points per completion. Bonus points for high yardage games. Picture attached. Schultz is a free agent, but Chargers are showing interest via Rotoballer. I don't know how much I trust Rotoballer, my friend, but looking to trade up to the 102 to 103 to guarantee JSN. My league hates drafting quarterbacks, and then trade away Tyreek/Amari for a 2024 first or another running back. Am I asking/offering too much? You can put this in a YouTube video if you want. Okay, so first off, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock. Second off, let's go through and let's look at the bonus scoring that we're working with. Okay, so we're getting an extra 1.5 for a game over 100 rushing yards. Very, very rarely are we going to see the actual 200 plus yard game. And I'll tell you right now, if we're going to get 200 receiving yards from one of our wide receivers, the last thing we're going to do is go, oh, heck yes, I just got 200 receiving yards from my receiver and we got an extra 2 points. You're not caring about the 2 points at that point. I mean, we're fine. So honestly, bonuses, I don't really want to be making too many adjustments about. Going over to this team, I need to highlight this. Okay. We are starting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. We are starting 7 players. If we are starting 7 players, the literal only thing that matters is going to be the ceiling. Depth does not matter in the slightest. We've looked at some other teams here that have been starting 10, 11 guys. Yeah, if you're starting 10, 11 guys, we definitely have to make sure that we're monitoring. I mean, what happens if one of our wide receivers goes down? It's going to be difficult to find another starter like that league we just looked at. I mean, I think 2 breakdowns ago that could start 7 receivers. There, of course, if you can start 7 wide receivers, we need to make a few different changes. But here in particular, I mean, if we can only start 1 flex, if you have a Jamar Chase going off for 150 receiving yards in a single week, he can win you that week alone. It doesn't matter what's going on elsewhere. So in this league, I love having the elite level quarterback. I love having the elite level tight end. I don't really want to prioritize wide receiver depth, as we were talking about in the league where you could have started up to 7 wide receivers. But going over, we have Trevor Lawrence at QB. Lawrence is very interesting in that Trevor Lawrence is actually, okay, we have Lamar Jackson, a quarterback as well. I was going to say Lawrence, in my mind, is the perfect quarterback in a super flex format where you just want an extremely high floor and ceiling combination for the foreseeable future. Whereas in this league in particular, I don't really care about the floor. I just want to chase the highest ceiling possible. So if we can go out there and get a quarterback that has all the rushing upside in the world, someone like Lamar Jackson, I like it. We have Lamar Jackson. Okay, so we're in a very good spot there. Now, if we're going to be going over to running back, we have Brian Robinson, DeAndre Swift, and then down there on the bench, we're rolling with Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, and we got Bijan Robinson. Okay, thank God we have Bijan Robinson. We are in a good spot on that front. So really, we're going to be starting Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift at RB. Wide receiver, we have Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, then Amari Cooper down there in the flex. And then if we're going to be going down to the bench, we're going to have Christian Watson, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson's a very good example of, I mean, that player that we were talking about, Deontay in the league where you can start up to 7 wide receivers. Yeah, a very nice guy to have. But here, you never want to have to rely on starting Deontay Johnson. If Deontay Johnson is one of your 7 best players, then you're probably not going to be a contender. So I would say just some of these depth pieces, like the second Odell signs somewhere, you're going through and you're selling Odell Beckham Jr. You're just using him in a 2-for-1 deal to try to find an upgrade elsewhere. Like if you could go through, if you could package together, say Odell and a future second and get a future first, that's something I'm doing in a heartbeat. Okay. And of course, that's going to be after he signs. There's no way in hell you're getting that deal done now. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's look at tight end. Tight end is actually a spot where in this league, because we only have 1 flex, because we can only start up to 3 wide receivers, tight end is inherently going to make up a higher percentage of your starting lineup output each and every week, where I would really like to see if we could go out there and pay up for an elite level tight end. Like if we could go through, say if we could trade Deontay Johnson and Dalton Schultz and then come away with TJ Hawkinson, come away with Mark Andrews. And of course, that's never going to happen. Okay. But maybe we're going a little ahead of ourselves there. But if we could say trade away the 105 and Dalton Schultz and go get Kyle Pitts, go get TJ Hawkinson. In this format, I would say this is almost more of a tight end premium league than a league where you're actually getting an extra half point per reception for the tight end position, just because they're going to make up such a high percentage of your starting lineup output, and wide receivers are inherently going to be less valuable. So I would really like to go ahead and make that deal. I mean, if we were looking at the trade that you sent here previously, so this trade is we were trying to sell Christian Watson the 105 and Allen Lazard to get the 102. So I completely understand where you're coming from on this front. Like, Christian Watson is on your bench. Depth doesn't matter too much. But in my mind, like, this trade is we're selling Christian Watson and 105, say Jordan Addison, for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Well, I definitely would rather have Jackson Smith and Jigba over Jordan Addison. Are we that confident that JSN will be better than both Christian Watson as well as Jordan Addison? Now, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, it easily could happen. But at the same time, it's no guarantee. Like we don't know for sure if we are going to end up seeing it shake out that way. So I would rather focus in on maybe keeping Christian Watson, because Christian Watson is one of those players that could have an extremely high ceiling and actually make a difference here. And then going through and selling that 105 to get a true elite level tight end. Because in my mind, I don't know. Maybe I've just never given the man enough respect. But I don't really believe that Dalton Schultz is some elite level player. Like, let me go ahead. Let's pull up Dalton Schultz statistics over the past few seasons. So if you're going to be looking at Schultz, he's primarily been driven off of volume, which is, of course, great when you're getting it. But the issue is, if we're going to be projecting him out to a new offense, it's not like we ever want to say that Dalton Schultz is going to be some super efficient tight end, right? I mean, Dalton Schultz, you're looking at about 8 yards per target, which is respectable for the tight end position. But career high 47 receiving yards per game. I don't really know how many situations are better than what he had in Dallas, outside of obviously very specific situations such as the Los Angeles Chargers. If you truly believe that you are going to have Dalton Schultz to the Chargers, then of course feel free to go ahead and keep him, but it's not a guarantee by any means. Not a guarantee by any means. Now, if we were to go through and project out to 2024, we won't have our own 2024 first, which is fine, but it does change our immediate plans to make sure that we are going through and trying to win today. Like, that is the number one priority. That's almost the only priority, is put points in the starting lineup today, 2023. It doesn't matter if we get 8th versus 1st and make $0. It doesn't matter for us anyway, because we don't have our own first round pick. And we're not getting the 101 versus the 108. We don't get anything. So let's just go kind of, I don't want to say all in to win now, but we don't really have the lever to pull to say, okay, let's punt and let's rebuild this next season. But if we were to go through and trade that 105 for a veteran tight end right now, we could be in a position to win. You say you have Lamar/Lawrence at quarterback. Running back, you have Bijan Robinson. Keep in mind, not Brian Robinson. This team has the 101. Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift. Wide receiver, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. Flex, Amari Cooper/Christian Watson. And then an elite tight end in the flex spot. In my mind, that's what wins this league. And I think that could be something we're very excited about. But I think that's all we have for this team. Of course, thank you, my friend, for being a member of the flock. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And as I tell everybody, if there's anything I can do for you, any way that I can improve the site, do not hesitate. Reach out to me immediately, and I'll be super happy to send that over to the developers and see if it's possible and see if we can get that done for you. But let's go over and let's see what's up. His Dynasty team. It's going to be a 12-team, one quarterback PPR format. Especially need advice on the running back situation. We have the 102, and the consensus is Jackson Smith and Jigba, so I'm wavering whether or not to take Gibbs or if I should trade down a spot. Also have 7, 10, 12, so I'm more than likely going to miss out on Zach Charbonnet. Appreciate your time on this. Also, I'm good with the YouTube option. Thank you so much, my friend, again, for being a member of the flock. Going to be happy to look into this, but I will have to pull this up on a different browser, so just give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. And as I pull this up, don't mind if I ask you to go check out flockfantasy.com and also to drop a like on this live stream. Come on. Pat McAfee had like 400,000 people watching him live 2 days ago, or was that yesterday now? I don't exactly know when, but if we're going to get to 400,000 people live tonight, you need to do your part, pull your weight, and drop a like on the stream. I'm talking to you, okay? If you do not drop a like on the live stream, you are the reason we don't have 400,000 live viewers. It's not on me at all. Okay, now let's pull this back up. It's going to be a team that yet again has a shallow starting lineup. So let me just go through and talk about this one more time at the risk of being repetitive. In a league where we are starting one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, tight end, then 3 flex spots. We're starting 7 players each and every week, not including kicker DST. We're not looking at kicker DST. Who the hell cares? If we're starting 7 players, those depth wide receivers, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, those low-end wide receivers, they don't matter. I mean, in a league where you can start 11, 12 guys, they're everything. You want as many of those guys as you can get. But here, they're going to be riding the pine. They're not going to make a difference for you. And if you're having to rely on someone like Deontay Johnson in a league where you're only starting 7 players, you're not a true contender regardless. So every trade we make in a league where we're starting 7 players, 2-for-1s, baby. Where we're going through, we're trying to give up multiple pieces to get the one best asset in return. And I think that this team looks like it has a lot of firepower on the surface to do just that. So keep in mind, we're only having to start 1 running back, 1 wide receiver as well. So operating under the assumption this is a full PPR league, which it is. Probably going to want to put wide receivers at those flex spots. But anyway, quarterback, we have Josh Allen. And going back to what we're discussing as well, if you only can start 7 players, the depth wide receivers don't really matter. You don't have that many flex spots. So we really want a great quarterback. We really want a great tight end because they're just going to inherently make up a higher percentage of our starting lineup output each and every week. So love having Josh Allen at quarterback. We have Mac Jones as our quarterback too. Doesn't really matter. I mean, Mac Jones definitely doesn't have a high ceiling, but it is a 1 quarterback format. So assuming that Josh Allen stays healthy this upcoming season, Mac Jones will start 1 week and 1 week only, and that will be during Josh Allen's bye. Now, going over to the running back position, we are going to have Ezekiel Elliott, who no longer is on the Dallas Cowboys, of course. And going down to the bench, we are going to have A.J. Dillon, Leonard Fournette, James Robinson. So obviously on the surface, we do have a hole at running back, which is why you were saying, do we want to go ahead? Do we want to take Jahmyr Gibbs at the 102? In reality, I don't necessarily care too much about positions in a league where we're only having to start 1 of each. You almost view running back as like tight end in another league here if we're only going to be having to start 1 of them. So, of course, we need help at RB. Not going to lie to you. Can't say that Zeke, Leonard Fournette, A.J. Dillon, well, one of these guys will be great this next season. But it's also not such a pressing need in that we are saying we have no running backs. We need to go through and do whatever we can to add someone in. We only have to start 1 of them. So even if we don't take him in the rookie draft, if we decide to trade for 1 at the beginning of the season, we only have to trade for 1. We're not having to trade for multiple. So I think that we don't have really any quote-unquote pressing roster needs in a league where you only start 1 of each position and then have flexes. In this format in particular, you always take best player available. Now, going over to wide receiver, we have Judy, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins. So we're definitely much, much stronger at wide receiver. And even going down to the bench, we have Gabe Davis, Drake London, Kadarius Toney. I mean, we're in a very good spot at the wide receiver position. And honestly, pick 7, pick 10 may end up being wide receivers as well. Tight end, love what we have with TJ Hawkinson. So overall, we're definitely way stronger at wide receiver than we are running back. We have an elite quarterback. We have an elite tight end in Dynasty. And we have elite wide receivers. Running back's going to be that one hole. But if we were to go through and make a rookie draft strategy, a little plan here. I don't necessarily think the answer is just taking Jahmyr Gibbs at the 102 immediately. Personally, I do have Jackson Smith and Jigba ranked ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think that they are so close. I think that they are in the same tier right now, and this can easily change. I think what we are going to look to do is we're going to wait until we have the NFL draft, confirming both draft capital and seeing what landing spots these players fall into. Then at that point, we go ahead and we make the decision between the 2 of them. I know it's gross when we have this much wide receiver help. Maybe a solution to this is instead of just not taking best player available in the rookie draft, maybe the solution is instead we go ahead and we draft Jackson Smith and Jigba, and we look to trade another wide receiver. If we were to trade another wide receiver, maybe at that point we're going through and moving Jerry Jeudy, who maybe you don't necessarily see the same type of ceiling that you would have with Waddle, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins. Jeudy, a phenomenal player in a dynasty league where you're having to start 11 guys, but here, not going to make too much of a difference when you're starting starting 7. So if we were to go through and maybe move Jerry Jeudy and then package him together with, say, the 107 and go out there and get the 103 and then be able to take Jahmyr Gibbs in this format with this team, I think that makes sense. And I think that's a trade that you could almost easily get done. I wouldn't even offer the 107 at first. I would offer, say, for the 103, hell, I'll give you the 112 and Jerry Jeudy, give me the 103. They say no, then say, hey, I'll give you the 110 and Jerry Jeudy, give me the 103. They say no, then you go, okay, I'll give you the 110 and the 211 and Jerry Jeudy for the 103. Whittle them down, and then throw in the 311. And then if they say no to that, then maybe we'll move up to the 107. But I think that's a very good idea. And then I still want to be taking best player available at the 102. And then if we're going to be looking at what will be available to us, 107, 110, 112, keep in mind, it's a one quarterback format. So Bijan 1, JSN, Gibbs 2 and 3, probably Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zach Charbonnet is the next 3 guys, whatever order you want. Then at 7, we have a significant teardrop. We go in Sean Tucker. We go in Jalen Hyatt. We go in Josh Downs. Or we go in rookie quarterback. 107 is a very bad position to be in a one quarterback format. So I wouldn't mind at all trying to move up from that 107. And like we said at the very top of this video, we want to be doing everything we can to make those 2-for-1 deals. 2-for-1 deals, 2-for-1 deals, 2-for-1 deals. Open up the roster spot as well, because in this shallow format, it's actually surprisingly valuable. But I think that's all we got for that team. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I genuinely do really appreciate it. And if you want anything done with the site, any improvements, reach out to me. Let me know ASAP. I'm going to be happy to continue to improve this for y'all for a very long time. But thank you again, everybody, so much for hanging out with us. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this live stream. Thank you for being a part of the flock. As always, if you want my rankings, exclusive articles, exclusive streams, exclusive videos, if you want your Dynasty team broken down on a podcast, make sure you're signing up with promo code FLOCK to flockfantasy.com with the link in the live chat, link in the description. 30% off any subscription. And with promo code FLOCK in a mother flocker purchase, yours truly will go ahead and break down your Dynasty team for you. But thank you again for everything. Hope you have a great day. Hope we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow.